This week on the Technology Show, we talk with Dr. Tom Armiger, CEO of World Hope International, discuss some recent controversies in the Boy Scouts of America, further the Apple Foxconn discussion, and we catch the wave of linsanity that's sweeping the nation. All that and more today on the Technology Show.
Today is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2012. I'm Matthew T.G.
I'm Heath Mullican.
I'm Steve Stanley.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show, a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. The world's only user-antagonistic podcast. This is episode 145.
Woo-hoo.
So, Heath, I understand that you took a bunch of people out last week just out of the goodness of your heart. That's great.
I'll be sending a bill to the Technology Show accountant and getting paid for. Oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know. It was.
He does that frequently.
I hated to be gone last week. I was up at Fuel, which is the Wesleyan Youth Pastors Gathering in Louisville, Kentucky, the largest one in history.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about pounds. I'm talking about number of people attending.
Maybe pounds too.
Perhaps. But it was great. Kyle Eidemann, who's a teaching pastor, I believe at Southeast Christian Church there in Louisville, spoke, author of Not a Fan. Super guy. Just gave a challenging message. And we really... The Follow Tour last year was kind of the kickstart, and this really got the ball rolling for some things that are going to be happening at the Follow International Youth Convention in December. And Scott Simmons did a great job, and I was honored to be a part of that team. It was amazing. It was the best one I've ever been to.
Well, we encourage some of our listeners, to hit you up when you were there for a meal that you were going to sponsor it, and you did.
Well, no. But anyway, let me just say, I was amazed at how many people came up to me and said that, and also was like, hey, you do the Technology Show. I'm like, yes.
I love
so it was great, man.
I love it. All right, listen, we got a giveaway here. We have 6 books, so we're going to give all 6 away to one winner.
Only 3 have been colored in.
Well, yeah. Thanks, Steve. We'll package them up and send them to you. We have Keith Loy's book, Clue, God's Clues for Facing Our Fears. A couple books that are part of a series in the Wesleyan Church. This is the Wesleyan Theological Perspectives series. The first one is The Church Jesus Builds, and then we also have Passion, Power, and Purpose. Also with this, we have a devotional book by Nick Harrison, and it's about stories out of Wesley's life. So a great little devotional, different kind of crazy, a pretty popular book. We'll throw that in. Also throwing in Max Lucado's book, Outlive Your Life. This is the book that actually has Joanne Lyon in it, the story of Joanne Lyon and World Hope. TG, how can they win these books?
Speaking of which, Facebook. Facebook, go to our wall, our page on Facebook. It's facebook.com/The Technology Show, and just leave a comment there, and you will be entered, and I will run the randomizer at the end of the show.
All right.
To determine our winner.
And we'll try to, later on here, we'll try to get back to that and plug it one more time. Speaking of World Hope International, today we want to welcome Dr. Tom Armiger. Dr. Armiger served as General Superintendent of the Wesleyan Church from 1997 to 2011. He's a graduate of Indiana Wesleyan University and also Nazarene Theological Seminary. He was ordained in 1979, later completing his Doctor of Ministry degree at Fuller Theological Seminary. His career has included service as a local church pastor, as a denominational executive in the General Department of Student Ministries, and again as a General Superintendent, and was also District Superintendent of the Virginia District, which is now the Shenandoah. He's been married to his wife, Vanjie, for 37 years, and together they have 3 wonderful boys, Joshua, Jonathan, and Jeremy. Dr. Armiger, welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's great to join you folks today.
Hey, Dr. Armiger, real quick before we get started, you have really covered and served in literally every aspect of service within our denomination. And do you feel like, you've only been at World Hope here a few months. Do you feel like you look back and God has just given you a great and distinguished career, but do you feel like you're almost getting started all over again?
I agree. It's been wonderful, the privilege the Wesleyan Church has given me to serve as youth pastor, district superintendent, general youth leader, and then as a general superintendent. But honestly, I do believe you caught on to something there, that God leads us to the next step. And all that has transpired prior, it was preparation for the immediate need. And I really believe God has given me an opportunity to have the experience of the past, really to prepare me to give leadership to the future responsibility, which is really challenging and needy around the world. It's great to be a part of World Hope.
Tom, on September the 1st of last year, you were General Superintendent in the Wesleyan Church. By the time October the 1st rolled around, you were CEO at World Hope International. Talk to us a little bit about what that transition has been like.
Well, it was a quick one, probably the quickest transition I've ever had in changing a role or a job. On September 17th, the Board of World Hope asked me to give leadership, and my colleagues, Joanne Lyon and Jerry Pence, agreed that I could immediately give a 2 weeks notice, and the General Board Executive Committee approved that, and so I was able to start quickly on October 1. Obviously did not take time to make a move of the family at that present time, but have bought or rented a studio, and so I'm spending a lot of time here in D.C., where our office is located, in Alexandria, Virginia. And but it's been I've hit the ground running, to be honest. It's not been a dull moment. It's almost like sometimes you're thinking I'm sitting in front of a fire hose and it's just spurting all kinds of water at me constantly. But the challenge is also one that is fulfilling. And to see what World Hope is doing around the world and to be a part of that, that takes care of the pressure points and the challenging times. But it's been a hectic roller coaster ride since then, but we've seen God's grace manifesting His guidance all along the way.
You feel like you're starting to get your feet underneath you?
Yes. Excited to be a part of it. I get to go this afternoon to Azerbaijan to see what we're doing there in education. And one of the things that World Hope does so well, and that is it empowers people overseas, and to be able to see what we're doing is just really thrilling. And so I'm getting my feet under the ground and knowing a little bit of all the inner workings, both at headquarters and around the world. One of the surprises I had is the fact that I knew we had people at headquarters here in Alexandria, Virginia, but I did not realize how many people World Hope was employing overseas to do its ministry. At one point, we were employing about 150 people overseas. And
wow.
And so that was a shock to me, but we're getting a handle on it.
Dr. Armiger, give us a little bit of your history with World Hope and the journey that brought you to accepting the position of CEO there.
Yes, thanks. I was privileged because of my role as General Superintendent to be on the board of World Hope for about 7 years, a 4-year term and then a 3-year term after that. So I had a lot of experience in the sense of knowing and being on the board, so I knew a lot of the inner workings of World Hope. But I also was privileged as General Superintendent to visit some of the fields where World Hope was ministering in, and I could see the accomplishments and the work that was being done for the sake of the gospel that I was aware of. So when Evie Hay Campbell, the chair of World Hope, after Carl Eastlack resigned, she called me and asked me would I be willing just to talk to the board and the next weekend. And she called me on a Friday night, and honestly, I didn't get much sleep that Friday night. But that next week, I spent time praying and fasting about this meeting that was coming up, and all of a sudden, God just laid a burden on my heart for World Hope. I was in the process of reading The Hole in the Gospel, and during that week, God just laid a burden on my heart for not only for the lost, but for the poor, the poorest of the poor around the world. And it was such a burden. I don't want to compare myself by no means to Nehemiah, but it was almost like God laid a burden on my heart similar to Nehemiah, where I wept. I was just burdened. And finally, the Lord spoke to me and said, you know, in the inner spirit, saying, Tom, are you willing to surrender and follow my lordship and walk through this? And so it became a matter during that day of fasting. I just had to surrender and say, okay, God, if you want me to walk through this door of leading World Hope, I'll do it. But I want to make sure it's of you and not of anything else. And then when we had the next week, when we had the board meeting, honestly, guys, it was like we had church in that Saturday board meeting. God's presence was so real. It was confirmation for me. I told the board, hey, if this is not the thing to work out, then I knew God would release that burden. But obviously God hasn't, and the burden is still burning in my heart today because I sense God called me to this. And it was just a confirmation from not only the board, but the Holy Spirit's work at that board meeting was just a neat sealing factor.
As Wesleyans, human trafficking has been among the concerns that we have wrestled with. In fact, the reason for our existence in large part. And certainly it's a deep area of concern at World Hope and has been for a number of years. As a matter of fact, one of the banners that runs on your website, I understand, urges viewers to become a modern-day abolitionist. And I wonder if you could give our viewers and listeners a sense of human trafficking as it is today. We don't see people working the fields and living on plantations, but what does it look like today and the ways we can confront it?
Yeah, it is an amazing underground movement around the world of human trafficking. They tell us that it's about a 32 billion industry right now. About 12 million people are trafficked around the world right now. They say about 125,000 in the U.S. Well, what the shocking thing in a recent State Department briefing that I was privileged to attend, they were sharing that in Africa alone, 3 million children are trafficked each year.
That's incredible.
And it really is incredible. It's heart-rendering. And one of the things that we're trying to do through World Hope, we have 2 assessment centers in Cambodia, whereby we nurture and rehabilitate girls out of the sex industry, help them to find a new beginning in their life, a new career, give them therapy, bring them inner peace. And we are so thankful because through our Cambodia centers, over 730 girls have been rescued since our beginning.
Great.
The neat thing is we just opening a new shelter in Sierra Leone, and that'll be a new assessment center there. And recently, the U.S. government gave us a commendation for our work in Cambodia, and we thank the Lord for that.
Yeah. I've been running a video as you've been talking that I think, where can the people see this, Tony? You grabbed this video.
They can go to World Hope.
From World Hope, it's the video on Cambodia where you where an interviewer is talking with some of the girls who have gone through the programs that you set up.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Armiger, one of the things that's encouraging to me, I saw Hillary Clinton sometime in the latter part of 2011 who really addressed this thing of human trafficking head on, and I wanted to stand and applaud. I was watching the evening news, you know, but I feel like that World Hope has really been out front on this, and only eternity will reveal the impact that World Hope has had in this area, and really, I mean, it certainly goes back to part of the vision that Joanne had in founding World Hope.
Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, go ahead.
Now, matter of fact, the neat thing that an opportunity that has come to us on this anti-trafficking, we are going to be featured on the CBS Dave Letterman big screen from February 23rd to April 23rd. We've been able to show a 15-second clip of the anti-trafficking and give people a chance to see our work and even text to give. And so we're kind of excited about that kind of promotion that the Lord has opened up for us.
That is outstanding. Yeah, I know another program that was started in 1996 by World Hope is the Child Sponsorship Program. It's called Hope for Children. Tell us about that program a little bit and the impact that it has on children.
It is an amazing program, very similar to other organizations of child sponsorship, but we are in 11 different countries, whereby North American sponsors give on a monthly basis to provide education for children. Not only does it go for the enrollment tuition, but it takes care of textbooks, it takes care of medical supplies that they may need, it takes care of providing nutritious meals in these education centers. We right now have about 3,000 children in 11 different countries that we are ministering to through this child sponsorship. And what we do, excuse me, suffering from a cold, but what we do is we send 80% of the funds that come in for that to the field for direct services of the child. Yeah. And that program, it's just amazing. Not only Wesleyans, but non-Wesleyans around the U.S. Support the child sponsorship program. We also have a child scholarship program, which is a lower amount on a monthly basis to encourage not only the primary and secondary education, but future education for those children through a scholarship program. And we have a new endeavor in that role. And so that's kind of exciting. One of the neat stories, one of the first children that were sponsored in Haiti was a man by the name of Tony. And he was sponsored for a number of years, but now has been our country director for World Hope over the last 7 years. And so it just shows you that it's a transformational program and raising up workers and leaders and teaching them Christian truth. So we're excited about that program.
Let me say this too. Something I was really impressed with is if people go to your website, there's not only can they see about this program, but other programs, and there's one tab there that says, how do I know that my money is going to where I want it to go? And I think that the accountability that World Hope sets up is it's impressive, but it's also needful in our day and age as people contribute, you know.
Dr. Armiger,
accountability factors in there. You know, the various agencies of accountability, we're a part of that.
Dr. Armiger, we've already mentioned some great programs that World Hope offers. What are some other things that World Hope International is doing around the world that you would want to highlight today?
Well, we mentioned two of our programs, anti-trafficking and the Hope for Children education, but a third wonderful ministry that we do is recognizing the need of water, clean water around the world. It's amazing when you think about 2.6 billion people, 40% of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day, and that our 1 billion people do not have access to clean drinking water. And one of the concerns we have, as the reports have come in, we know that about 6,000 people die every day because they do not have clean drinking water. Incredible. So we are involved in drilling wells in various countries in Africa. We drill wells in Liberia, Zambia, Sierra Leone, and Mozambique. And since our beginning this process back in 2005, over 700 wells have been drilled. Wow. And affecting about 500,000 people, providing clean water. And that not only helps them in the healthcare area, but you know, water is a great source for farming and livestock, economic development. And so we're excited about the wells program. And the thing that it's not just the water filtration, it's actually, you know, drilled wells that have longevity and sustainability going forward. And that's a wonderful program that's being helpful.
That was one of the great things I loved about the Love Mercy Youth Conference in 2009 is that all four area conventions gave, and I don't remember what the final total was. I know it was thousands of dollars that went directly to World Hope to dig wells. And we had Scott Drury was down kind of promoting that with us, and it was just phenomenal to see the kids participate in that. And I think the one of the great things I love about World Hope is we live in a society where we have a generation, they really get behind causes like that, and they really understand the need for things like that. And I'm just so grateful that we kind of have World Hope organizing kind of this passion and this energy that this generation is showing, and just some of the things you guys are doing is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, we feel very strongly that the mission of World Hope is to serve the local church and to become the vehicle whereby they can fulfill their vision of compassionate ministry and service.
You know, we listen to stories like the story of World Hope, like the stories involving human trafficking and the things that are going on around the world, and it's like watching the news almost. We feel overwhelmed. That's our first reaction, but there's something inside of every believer, I think, that wants to respond in some way.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that we could, on this end of the microphone, this end of the screen, connect with what you're doing at World Hope?
Well, one of the things that we always want to covet from our churches and from our partners is prayer support for the ministries that we're doing. We cannot build the infrastructure and touch people's lives unless it's backed by God's help and His guidance, and that comes through prayer. The second thing is we want and encourage church partnerships. We encourage churches to adopt villages over in Africa, whereby we can not only give them leadership training and spiritual development, but provide a well, provide HIV/AIDS training, provide the Hope for Children program. But churches are our partners. We cannot run independently of a local church, whether in the U.S. or on the field itself. I believe we are to declare the gospel, but World Hope gives a venue for demonstrating the gospel in action.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's what we are there for, to help the church and help individuals to say that by giving and by partnering with us, by going and seeing what is accomplished, we can actually demonstrate God's love in action. And that makes a big difference.
Dr. Armiger, one of the questions we had in the chat room is there are so many child sponsorship programs. And what would you say to somebody who maybe has been sponsoring a child through, let's say, a Compassion International? What would you say to them as far as maybe making the switch to sponsoring a child through World Hope? I know there's the denominational connection, but what are some of the other benefits of going through World Hope to do that?
Well, one of the things that our Hope for Children program from its start was targeting, and that is targeting children in certain villages and many times in the remote villages away from the large cities. So it was this surrounding rural areas that we wanted to reach. We also tried to reach those that were connected to a church. We wanted to make sure that in our Hope for Children program, we're not only educating them, but also giving them the spiritual tie. So the fact that we are trying to minister to the poorest of the poor in outlying areas outside of the city makes it a little different for us, because of the expense of doing that and getting the reports and connecting. One of the things that we try to do is the importance of incorporating them in a local church. And so the church partnership, whether it's the Zambia Pilgrim Wesleyan Church or whether it's in Sierra Leone, we want our Hope for Children program to be solely based through the church and have connection with the church. Wow. So we try to go to the poorest of the poor, the remote areas, Wesleyans in particular because of our churches there, but also the fact that we want to see that program have an impact in the village itself. Because we believe if we're helping the children, we're helping the next generation in economic development. And so that's part of our purpose.
Yeah. Dr. Armiger, I know that you said prayer support is vitally important, and we also recognize that the financial aspect of this is vitally important as well. And just want to let our listeners know that they can go to worldhope.org, and people can give online there. It would also, this is a wonderful website to just let our listeners know what other ministries you offer there as well. Thanks so much, Tom, for taking time out to be with us, especially in not only in the midst of a busy schedule, but with this the ravages of the common cold that you're fighting.
The uncommon cold.
Go home and take a nap.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't go home and take a nap, can you? You're gonna have to nap on the plane.
Yeah.
Nap on the plane this afternoon. Yep.
Yeah, and listen, let me say this here. Want to commend you on getting your Master of Divinity at Nazarene Theological. If you can't go to Asbury, then we think that's a wonderful place.
We've heard this heresy before. It's been refuted, I think, by several councils of the church.
Oh, just picking fun at you. Again, thanks so much for taking time out to be with us.
Well, thank you, and appreciate the honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Blessings on you.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, great organization. Can't say enough about this and the space that they've carved out. I mean, 20 years ago, this organization didn't even exist, and it is just the dream of Dr. Joanne Lyon, what God put in her heart.
It's a regular at the table with presidents and decision makers.
And because it is a Wesleyan organization, but there is a loose affiliation, and just some of the things World Hope allows us to do as a church.
Right.
I mean, we will never know. We'll never know the impact that we're having.
All right. Well, let's keep moving on here and go to.
I do hope that he didn't think I was making
Oh,
fun
my
of
word. Oh, gracious.
Asbury.
Well, forget my trying to be on the ball today, Steve.
Why is that? Why
Because
today?
I've poked with him over and over again about it.
No, I'm saying I hope that he doesn't think I was trashing Asbury there, or NTS. But I will say this: what I like about this guy is he has the same passion and fire you hear in Joanne Lyon. There's a continuity in the soul, a desire to really express the gospel in tangible ways. And that's one thing that the rising generation has said to my generation. You guys didn't do that. You let us down. You let us down in the civil rights. You let us down in poverty. You let us down in education to those that were denied adequate or fair education. And World Hope is putting the gospel and good works together.
Yeah, he's doing a great job of carrying the mantle.
You sure?
Let's do it.
You're positive?
I'm positive.
All right. Everybody ready for this?
Let's go
All right,
to.
here we go. Here we go. Okay. Wow.
Download of the week.
All right. This week's download of the week is a very simple one, but really cool. Something that I discovered just this past week that's been handy for me. If you have an iOS device, you've got access to the Google app. If you're running Android, it's very similar, but I think that the program you'd be looking for that would be the equivalent of what I'm going to be talking about today is Google Goggles. And what I've discovered is in this application, you can use the camera to do a search with a business card. So here's what happened. I actually meant to bring a business card with me so I could try to demonstrate this live today, but I failed to. If any of you guys have one, we can
I was
try it
going to
out.
pull one
But
out,
anyway,
but I don't have my wallet with me.
you take a business card, fire open the Google app or Google Goggles, take a picture of the business card. Google recognizes that it is a business card and imports it, or gives you the option to import it into your contact list. So I did this. I got a business card from someone at Southern Wesleyan University last week. We did a session there on our show, and afterwards got a business card from somebody and fired it up, took a picture. It got the email, the name, the phone number, all that stuff, and brought it right in as a contact without me having to sit and type all those things in. And then I was able to just toss the business card away. So it was a huge time saver in being able to do that. And I thought, how many times have I went home and I had a couple business cards laying around that people had given to me that I hadn't gotten a chance to do anything with. Well, I just pulled them out, took a picture, imported them into my contacts list, and now I've got all that information. It's really quite a fantastic
And it put the information
little thing.
in the right fields.
Yes. So it knows email address, it knows phone number, it knows name, first name, last name, it knows business, like it put who they work for and all that kind of
Did
good
it
stuff.
sync it then with your Google Contacts?
Yes. Yep. So I imported it right into the contacts on my phone, which then syncs with Google Contacts, and so now it's saved and it's there. So it's just a little handy thing that it's not they don't talk about it a lot. Like it's not a big advertised thing, but just a cool thing that application can do that I didn't know about until I'd read it somewhere. Actually, I was wondering that. I'd gotten that business card, and I thought, I in a way, I kind of hate getting business cards because they lay around and I don't know what to do with them, and I don't like taking the time to type it out myself. So I did a search, and come to find out, it's built into that application. So there's a little bit of a time saver for you all.
Hey, I want to remind you we're giving away 6 books today, but only to one individual. We're going to bundle them all together. And real quickly, A Different Kind of Crazy.
By Wesleyan Pastor Lawrence Wilson.
Okay, thank you. See,
Fall Creek Wesleyan Church.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was Wesleyan Pastor.
Larry
we
Wilson.
have Nick Harrison's book. It's a devotional about scenes out of Wesley's life.
About John Wesley.
Thank you.
I'm just going to do commentary on all these.
Okay. You're the color commentary guy. This is out of the Wesleyan Theological Perspective series, so we have a couple of them. Passion, Power, and Purpose, and then The Church That Jesus Builds.
Pretty sure those are Wesleyan too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Clue by Keith Loy.
Wesleyan pastor.
There you
There you go.
In the Dakota, where's his church?
Yeah.
Dakota, yeah.
Yeah, he's in
Max Lucado.
Max Lucado loves Wesleyans.
Loves them.
Loves
Eats them
them.
for breakfast.
Tells Wesleyan stories in his book.
Eats the Wesleyan cereal. And if you go to World Hope International, I just realized today during the interview I was looking, this book is featured at World Hope International because he mentions World Hope International. So what can I do, Tej, to win these
Go
books?
to facebook.com/The Techology Show and post on our wall. You've got a really good odds for winning today. I'm just going to put it that way.
And you don't have to be odd,
Really
but
good.
it doesn't
It's
hurt.
about 50-50. I mean, I just got to be honest there. But
It's between Joe and Steven, probably.
Now, Jeremy Gertis entered last week.
I'm going to go through and just triple check everything.
Make sure
but
that he's in for that. All right. Well, let's keep the train going down the tracks and go to They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
My favorite one.
With the type of star power that New York possesses, it's hard to imagine that it's actually Lynn who is saving D'Antoni's job this season. However, Lynn's star power is increasing faster than anyone could have ever dreamed of, and before long, he will become the most popular player on the team. That's a direct result of D'Antoni giving Lynn a shot for whatever reason. Columnist Michael Moratis in his February 8th, 2012 column, source Bleach Reporter.
These files exist solely to keep out individuals whose actions are inconsistent with the standards of scouting, and scouts are safer because of them. Deron Smith, Public Relations Director, Boy Scouts of America, explaining why the Boy Scouts have refused to turn over their, quote, ineligible volunteer files, close quote, despite a Santa Barbara judge's ruling that they be handed over. Source, Huffington Post.
Every month, hundreds of Oklahoma families are broken apart. Who will be there to pick up the pieces? Right now, over 8,000 children have nowhere to go but foster care. That's a lot of beds, houses, and families. Those who can't be placed in homes go to shelters. We need the church to commit the families to bridge the gap. There are over 6,000 churches in Oklahoma. All we really need is one. What can one church do? What can one family do? What can one purpose accomplish? Leave no Oklahoma child without a family. If every Oklahoma church commits at least one family for one purpose, we bridge the gap. Commit your church. Commit your family. It's the 111 Project. We can do this together. 111project.org. Go to 111project.org and find out more about how you can help an Oklahoma child find a home.
Yes, 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 yes.
This
yes.
is a great story. Listen, we've linked you to the main story here. It's the Oklahoma News Agency, and it says this. Deborah Smith, director of the Department of Human Services in Oklahoma, says Children and Family Services Division pointed to the 111 project as an example of what Oklahoma churches are doing to ease the foster home shortage in the state of Oklahoma.
Can't you just hear the grandstand of heaven just roaring?
This is
with cheers.
Another reason why I am dying, and I'm hoping that we can get
more.
Yes, Stephen Moore on this show, because in his book Adopted for Life, he talks about these kinds of things and how the church needs to do something. We are adopted, every one of us. If we're adopted, and how come we're not relating that through our actions as we're adopted into the family of Christ? How is that not being played out in the life of the church? And there is a beautiful example. And I tell you what, that challenges me, because of just recently hearing in my own county, here in Pickens County, the number of foster children that there are who are just floating around and in need of a place. And it makes me say, what could we do here? And what if our county, I mean, you can really make it big and say the state in itself, but what if the county did this? I know there's got to be, in Pickens County, there's got to be a church for everyone, because there's churches all over the place down here. But there's got to be a church that could sponsor every one of those children. And it is quite convicting to my heart that I've heard these things, that I've seen these things, and yet I haven't acted on them yet, and I need to start.
Let me tell you how to sell it, okay? Simple logistics here. Remind these pastors that means an increase in attendance. And I think you have them adopting them right and left.
Smith goes on to say in the article, the project's exciting because churches are committing not only to finding foster families, but also to finding volunteers willing to support those families. And I think this is another dimension that the church brings to this. So it's not just you as an isolated family are taking a foster child, but you are bringing them into a support system that you yourself have, which is the church. And again, what they're just saying is if we get one family in every church in Oklahoma that would take a foster child. So they're asking a church, a community of people, really, to take on a foster child. It's well conceived. It's beautiful. And what I love is that Deborah Smith, the one who heads up the Department of Human Services in Oklahoma, has picked up on this and says this is a great solution.
When you think about the responsibility of having a foster child, for a lot of people it's a daunting, overwhelming task. But when you think of it in the concept of, you know what, I might be the point person for this child, and they might be staying in my home, but our church is the one coming around.
And that's what Moore talks about in his book, that the church has to have as a mindset that we are a family, we support one another. And so if we build this into the ethos of who we are as a church, it's not just one family that says, even though that individual may be living within the walls of that one family's home, it's a thing where they're adopted not just by that family, but supported by and loved by and encouraged by that whole church and poured into and invested by.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, you're bringing them into a community.
Yeah.
I
think that's biblical.
You think?
Yeah.
We'll put someone on it. We'll find out.
Let me do a quick correction on the story I read. That is from, I said Bleach Reporter. It should be Bleacher Report. And I must confess, I've heard about Jeremy Lin and the big hype about him, but we made a choice that we don't have television right now, so everything I'm getting on him is off the internet. And you can't believe everything you hear on the internet or read on the internet. But it is amazing. I didn't realize, I told Tony, I didn't realize till yesterday that part of the big ruckus and the comparisons between he and Tebow are because of Jeremy Lin's faith.
Strong believer.
The gentleman from ESPN who got fired for the what was deemed an insensitive headline a few days ago is actually a believer. Apologized to Jeremy Lin, said, I didn't mean anything by this. I think this is just a perfect storm for this story. I think, first of all, you have the fact that Jeremy Lin had been cut from several teams. A lot of teams missed out on him. He had a really good college career, I believe, at Harvard.
He did.
Harvard, not known for their NBA quality players. I do believe that Jeremy, part of this story is Jeremy Lin's race. I do believe that that plays in that, he's an amazing player, period, no matter what color of the skin, no what color of the race. I believe that Carmelo Anthony has been hurt, and so Jeremy Lin has been the man for the team. I believe it's a great system. I believe all those things have come together, and it could not happen to a nicer guy. I don't know that I agree with the story that he saved Mike D'Antoni's job because now Carmelo Anthony has come back and they lost to the lowly Nets.
Well, the basis for saying that is that before the Linsanity started, there were people who were calling for D'Antoni's job to say his system doesn't work. Let's just go ahead and move on to the next.
Now, this is what kind of makes me kind of wonder what in the world's going on, because here's the deal. His system, and I like his system. I like the system they played in Phoenix. It does not fit any of his personnel except for Jeremy Lin and Amari Stoudemire to some point. Carmelo Anthony does not play Mike D'Antoni's style of basketball. It showed in their first game. They were running a pick and roll, and basically the ball went to Carmelo Anthony and 4 guys stood around. And you don't win championships like that. So I believe that sooner or later they're going to build the team around Carmelo Anthony. They're going to have to build it around. I mean, I don't like.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that nobody likes seeing the ball pass to one guy and everybody standing around.
Well, my interest in this story is, one, the Linsanity, but two, he's a strong believer.
Yes.
He says that one of his mentors, one of the people he looks up to, is Tim Tebow.
Yes.
Also, a couple of years ago, and this guy got on my radar screen 2 years ago, Sports Illustrated did a wonderful article on Lin when he was at Harvard.
Right.
But, again, he didn't get a lot of traction. As an NBA player, he bounced around, so I'm happy for him.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to go to this story that Steve read and gave us the soundbite out of. This is interesting. You have a case in Santa Barbara, California, where there was a troop leader who molested. At the time, I think I'm looking at the story right now. I'm trying to find out how old he was, but I think he was 13 at the time. So you have this troop leader. Yeah, yep. The boy was 13 years old. The guy's name was Stephen Stein. That's the person that was the troop leader. So now this is in the courts, and the courts have found out that they have this secret file, the ineligible volunteer files. So the judges said, all right, you got to turn those over to us. And the Boy Scouts are saying, no, we're not going to turn that over to you. This is highly sensitive information, and we do it to protect. And so, man, I could, if you just said to me, okay, argue aside, I could argue aside, because the judge, no doubt, or the lawyer, no doubt, wants these to see if they had flagged Stein before.
Right.
And so, if so, then the Boy Scouts are certainly
culpable.
Yes,
yep.
Exactly. But this could be so full of names and stuff that people aren't aware of. And all those names are made public. So,
well, and in the atmosphere of the legal and judicial system of California, if they have a criteria that excludes certain sexual practices or lifestyle preferences, they're culpable and guilty. And if you admit it or permit that, you're going to lose a substantial number of your Boy Scouts, because they're God and country, and a lot of them meet in churches and so forth. I don't see it as a winning proposition on either side for the Boy Scouts. Something is going to give, and it probably won't give in the direction they want it to.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. All right, listen. Last night, ABC Nightline, which comes on at 11:30 Eastern here, they were given exclusive camera access to Foxconn. We've talked about Foxconn. This is the factory that produces all the Apple products. But I want to just say, in addition, what continues to get lost in this is everyone else is there at the table. Dell, HP, Vizio, I mean, you name it, they're there. But I actually stayed up last night to watch this. It's half hour. You can go on ABC's website now and see the whole thing. And they have it chopped up in 5 or 6 segments, or 3 or 4 segments. I think 3 segments. We're going to play just a couple minutes of this, and we'll talk a little bit.
Now to an extraordinary look inside the world of Apple, the company that makes those gadgets that millions of us love. Nightline anchor Bill Weir was granted exclusive access to a factory in China run by Apple's biggest supplier, and brings us, this is a fascinating
It's really
report.
something. No one has seen exactly what goes on in there. For years we've been asking the world's most valuable company for a glimpse inside. For years they said no. But after serious allegations of forced overtime, underage labor, after explosions and chemicals killed and harmed workers over there, Apple's been taking increasing heat for the way they run their factories, especially the biggest supplier called Foxconn. And as pressure mounted, they invited not only us, but also the Fair Labor Association, a trade group, to audit Foxconn, publish the results. No matter how ugly, they said we could talk to anyone, go anywhere we wanted to. And here's a little sample of what we saw. It's all so stylish. The see-through stores, the pristine white packaging, touchscreens, all the more touchable since the company that makes them has been shrouded in tantalizing secrecy. Until now. I'm told this is the very first time any reporter from any country has been allowed to see this. We don dust-free bunny suits to watch a room filled with massive robots glide around with sheets of iPad glass. Wow, look at that. It's like a scene out of WALL-E. But these lines are the futuristic exception. And with Apple's reputation under fire, we're most interested in the people who build their complex gadgets, one tiny piece at a time. As a whole, it's an incredibly complex process, but look at the individuals and you see mostly teenagers from the countryside, 17, 18-year-olds far away from very poor homes. So this is home? They live in a dorm with 7 strangers, spend 6 days a week repeating the same task again and again. Fatigue and boredom are common in any factory, but this one is surrounded by suicide nets. They are everywhere. A horrifying reminder of 18 workers who jumped from the buildings here at Foxconn City in the past few years. The suicide rate in this massive company is lower than average in China, but after people jumped in such a sobering cluster, Foxconn opened a counseling center and raised starting wages about 25 cents an hour. I wonder, though, if it wasn't for the spate of suicides, did it take something that severe to make you rethink how you treated your workers here?
I think absolutely. What we are facing are changing in a much rapid pace than we could have anticipated in the past. Right? So we're also changing.
As the Fair Labor Association collects employee grievances on...
This goes on. The clip we have here is about 6 minutes, so we'll just stop it there. As you go through this story, there are some things that you need to know. Number one, those who go to this plant are some of the fortunate ones. What they do, ABC goes out to the villages where many of these employees come from, and their parents and their grandparents talk about how their life is better now that their child or their grandchild is there.
Just like in the way that there are people who come here to America to work and send their money home. That's what a lot of these workers are doing. Mm-hmm. It's not staying with them in Shenzhen, China. It's going back to those places. That's why the family would consider it to be that.
This plant employs 1 million workers. 1 million workers.
At that one plant we just saw.
Yes, at 1 million. So again, I encourage you to go on and watch this. And one of the things that you see ABC wrestling with is while these people are working 12-hour shifts, they're living in these dorms, the reality is that their plight is better than many people out in the countryside. And most of these workers are coming from the countryside, so they're not coming from urban areas, coming from the countryside. And he was asked, this gentleman was asked later, what if Apple said that because of their profit margins, they wanted to double the wages of everyone making Apple products here? He said, that would be great. That would be great for them. That would be great for us. Now, one of the criticisms people have said, well, Apple needs to raise their hourly wage, and people have said, well, but Foxconn could then just take that money, and the company themselves could profit from. So the leader, the leader of this company said, no, we wouldn't do that. We would pass that down. Well, go ahead.
Two things that I noticed. I guess my brain just wasn't working, but when I saw that factory, that is not what I guess I was thinking. And maybe that's a high-tech sweatshop. You know, maybe that's what we're getting at is the old sweatshops. You know, you're in a dingy cabin and it's all dirty and a dirt floor. And
good point.
So, but I'm also wondering, I would love to see, I'm not saying those conditions are great. I'm not saying that. I would love to see where some of these kids came from, their home.
No, they take you out to the village. ABC does a great job to say, you need to understand this in context where they're coming from.
Right. So I would say that. I also found it interesting that they said they work 6 days a week. I find it, and that to me as a Christian and knowing that God, you know, that when the Jews came out of Egypt, that was one of the first things God said, you're not working 7 days a week. Your life's not about how many bricks you make. You're going to break this cycle. You were created to have that day off. And
the reporter for ABC said that Foxconn said we could go in and ask any questions. So he said we found workers at times reluctant, but he said some were very forthright. What they wanted to see as employee, what they wanted to see change. We want higher wages. They're charging us too much for our meals. They're charging us too much for our housing. So there were those that were willing to go on camera to say, hey, these are some changes that need to be made here.
I just, you know, there's a part of me that says they've exchanged one form of materialism, which is dialectical communism, which has a very materialistic outlook, for another, which is capitalism without Christ. There's a starving part of every human being that longs for spiritual connection. It is that which gives meaning and durability, the possibility of enduring almost the unendurable, and minus that in this factory. I wonder what it would be if they would let us plant 25 Christians there. If 25 people were willing to give up, as the Moravian missionaries sold themselves into slavery so that they could live among the slaves of the Caribbean and preach the gospel. I wonder if the message of Christ could do what it promises it will do. And of course, my confidence is it absolutely would.
Oh, you think, I mean, you say that, you think about their quarters, and you think about if that factory had a gospel breakout, that you've essentially got house churches built into this factory.
It's incredible. I mean, 7 in a room, 6, 7 in a room. And now let me put this in perspective. That Foxconn has 1 million employees. Not all of them are doing Apple products, because some are doing the other, working for other companies, as we have said. But get this. Now let me put this in perspective. With Apple's profits and the money that Apple has in the bank right now, they could go to every employee at Foxconn, give them a bonus of $1 million, and it would be a blip.
Yeah,
I mean, what's Apple sitting on right now? $45 billion, I think, in the bank, or it may be
a little less than me, but
and I'm not denying that there's economic justice that needs to come to play here. But my central point, when you analyze this, what you come away with is these people are doing better than anybody in their villages or their homes. They have more than anybody else in their circle of experience in life, and it doesn't satisfy. It leaves them feeling still impoverished at the most essential connections within them. And so, for its own time and purpose, wouldn't it be wonderful if there were a way to get believers on the scene? I'm sure there's probably some, and they're probably doing, but I'm talking about if there could be a coordinated effort of people who say, yep, this is what we're going to do.
I have a point of commendation and a point of condemnation. One is, number one, Apple, who has said, let's get cameras in here. I think Tim Cook is handling this the way it should be handled. ABC came in with cameras. Also, Apple is paying right now for a review of work conditions. And so part of the ABC special is that you see the company that they have contracted with, that Apple is paying to have this review done. And they answer the criticism. The leader of the company, the reporter says, well, listen, you're being paid to do this review, so how do we know that you're not going to? And it's interesting, he said, no, we've been doing this for years, and we have things that we look for. And so you walk into a company where people aren't talking, well, that's something. That, in other words, that enters into the review. Why aren't they talking? There's a reason they're not talking. And he said they look at things like eye contact. That communicates a message. So kudos to Apple. The spotlight was put upon them. It should be put upon them. They're making profit margins like no one else.
Right.
Now, condemnation, I would love to see. Pressure needs to be put on HP, on
absolutely.
Dell, on Vizio, on Motorola.
Microsoft.
Exactly. Anyone that's doing business in that factory.
So how does this go about? Like, say that Apple, does decide to do this. Do they or does Foxconn give just Apple employees that are working on Apple products a raise in a way to pressure?
My understanding is Apple employees make more than the other employees. So if you're working on an HP line, you don't make as much money
as if you're working for Foxconn / an Apple products division.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And does that affect product quality? If you got one employee making $2 an hour, making your HP
and solid body aluminum do, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the quality control thing is strictly controlled by Apple. So I think on the products, I wouldn't make that distinction there. An HP or an Asus may be cheaper because the design is cheaper.
What did you say?
Asus.
Okay.
Not Jesus.
That's what
Jesus.
Yeah, he doesn't know who Jesus is yet.
All right. Well, listen, we need to wrap this up here, and we need to get to our book giveaway.
Hold on here. Let's see.
By the way, I apologize. I've been losing my voice all day today.
Did you say something?
That's an answer to
Gracious.
I'm surprised you've been praying.
Hey, Steven sent you a link while they're figuring out who won the book. Go to the bottom of the chat. Steven sent you a link to a free book. He did not want to be blamed for.
No, he didn't.
You got to scroll down there, my friend.
All right, let's see.
He just sent it.
Oh, I thought he private messaged.
No.
Here we go.
There you go.
We're getting to the winner.
Yes, we are.
Heath won. Hey, way to go.
No, shush now.
Free shipping.
The winner is
Steve Stanley.
Would you like to have a drum roll, please?
The winner is Dr. Tom Armiger.
No. With the latest entry, the last entry won it.
No,
Sally.
Hey,
Sally! Was trying to figure out how to get on Facebook to enter to win. She has done it and done well.
And she would be proud. Steven just posted a tweet that his 5-year-old daughter could actually read those books to her grandmother. So that's a double win for everybody.
All right, listen, Heath, where can our listeners find you on the World Wide Web?
If they go to heathmullican.com, they can find me there and see my link to Facebook and Twitter.
I heard you're centralizing. I think that's a great idea.
I am. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be good. Gonna get down to one blog, and
I think that's a good thing.
I'm excited. So, woohoo!
Brother Stanley.
Brother Stanley wishes to thank Brother Steven Sheets for a link he just sent. Y'all need to check out his Mighty Fine blog. He has some wonderful free books from Amazon, but you have to get them while they're hot because they are only free for a little while. You can find Brother Steve at Post Office Box 229. No, I'm sorry. Pastor SES at Gmail. Look, everybody's burying their head in their hands. You boys are not old enough to remember radio, Christian radio.
Please help us.
All right, Pastor SES at gmail.com.
Good gracious. MatthewTG.com, Tony.
All right, you can find me at facebook.com/AKC64. Next week, in studio, Joan Rampey will be here to talk about her trip to Haiti back in December. Also, Greg Edmonds will be joining us via Skype for about the first 5 to 10 minutes of the show, bringing us us up to date on the hospital there at Lagwanov. And we have all kinds of great guests coming up in the future.
Well, I want to talk about one that we just added to the schedule if we can real quick.
Go ahead.
As I didn't waste time on my website.
Do that.
Here we go. March the 21st. We've got a guy named Jason from the Table Project.
From Halloween?
If you go to thetableproject.org, I believe it might just be just Table Project. Good gracious, guys. I'm cutting your microphones off because I can't think and hear you all talk at the same time. All right. Tableproject.org. It is basically creating social network inside the church to do church ministry through. A great theory of ministry that they have, and I'm excited to have him on the show. I'm also working to get Cody Thomas here that morning because rumor has it that they may actually be getting ready to, I better not say anything. All right. No, so you didn't hear anything here.
You already gave the rumor, man.
No.
Oh, yes, you did.
That there may be some talking there at his church in regards to this. So I think that he'd be a great one to help us interview Jason.
I'm putting that on the Twitter.
Yeah.
The
Twitter is what you're supposed to say.
Okay.
No.
All right, listen, if you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechologyshow.com. And if you want to contact us, send your emails to thetechologyshow@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail by calling us at 3049 Theology. That's 304-986-5649. Leave us a message. We may even play your comments on the air. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Adios.
Sayonara.